Oh, I got a package. Haha, yes, I've been waiting on this. I don't think I have a knife with me. Oh, yeah, I do. All right, we're gonna open this bad boy right here. I have been waiting on this. It's like Christmas morning. Boy, they got it packaged really well. My new 16-inch Bravo Company AR-15 barrel. You guys probably saw the video where I talked about shooting out my other one, and I finally spent the money and got a new barrel for the AR-15. Also got the BCM Gunfighter compensator. This is the same comp that was on my other barrel. It works really well, so went ahead and got the same one and a low profile gas block to put on with it. Also got the barrel nut wrench and some hardware. So actually my last AR-15 barrel was a 14.5, and I loved that barrel length. It fit the gun perfectly. It just felt really balanced, and I loved shooting that 14.5-inch barrel. But actually when I ran into this problem, I realized the disadvantage to having a 14.5-inch barrel, and that is the compensator is pinned and welded to the muzzle, so you can't just unscrew that and remove your gas block like you can with a 16-inch barrel like this. Plus, with the Mod Zero compensator that you put on the 16-inch barrel, it's not too much longer than a 14.5 with the longer comp that they have on that to make it a 16-inch overall length. So it's really not much longer, and you have the convenience of being able to, you know, take off your muzzle device whenever you want. So I'll probably go put that on as soon as I finish this video, actually. So let's get into this. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for watching. So today we're back with another top 5 myths video. So I did the top 5 myths that gun owners tell probably a couple months ago now, and that video just shot up. It really surprised me. It's at like 150,000 views or something now. So since then I've done a couple anti-gun videos, and I promised you guys that we would come back and do a part 2 on the pro gun side as well. So today we're back with the top 5 myths that gun owners tell, part 2. In part 1, I told you guys to put some of your favorite gun myths down in the comments, and since that video does have so many views, it's obviously kind of hard for me to keep up with all the comments, but I did go through a few of them and picked out some of my favorites. So this is probably a bad one to start with because we're gonna upset some people right away, but number 1 on today's list is the 1911 won 2 world wars. So I imagine the rifles, machine guns, aircraft, bombs, and the war machine of the United States probably played a bigger role than the 45 caliber pistols that they were carrying that hold 7 rounds. Let's be honest, they hold 3 rounds. Now, I'm sure the 1911 played a huge role. Most soldiers had them, and they did a terrific job, especially when you consider how long ago we're talking. The semi-automatic pistol hasn't really changed too much in, you know, over 100 years, and the 1911 was really the one that set the standard for all the guns that we have today. Now, I love 1911s. Full disclosure, I'm just joking for the video, but even today, if you go get like a really well-made 1911, they are just in a league of their own. They have such nice triggers, great ergonomics. They're just really nice guns. But the phrase, the 1911 won 2 world wars, is obviously not true, and it's kind of a thing that you hear guys say when they're trying to end a gun debate, because it's becoming harder and harder to argue in support for the 1911 with all the guns that we have out there today that work just as well, if not better, and are like half the price. So they say it won 2 world wars is kind of a way of saying if it was good enough for them and it accomplished that, then it's more than good enough for you, which is kind of irrelevant because World War II was 70 years ago, World War I was like over 100 years ago now, and there's just so many more options today, and the 1911 does have a few disadvantages over some of the modern pistols that we have today. The 45 caliber could be seen as an advantage or a disadvantage depending on how you look at it. The 45 is great. I don't consider that a disadvantage, but some people do who prefer, you know, more capacity in the magazine. Obviously, the 1911 specifically, capacity is a huge disadvantage, but today they do make like double stack 1911s, and you can get around the capacity, but 7+1 or 8+1 compared to 17+1 or 18+1 is obviously a big disadvantage, and ballistically, the 45 is superior to the 9mm in some ways it's not. There's a reason that a lot of the military is using 9mm modern pistols that hold a lot more rounds, although there might still be some military that use the 1911. I'm not sure, don't quote me on that, but I know a few years ago they were talking about bringing it back in certain branches of the military, so I'm not sure. It definitely still works and would get the job done just fine, but personally I would always want to have, you know, a double stack 9mm pistol over a single stack 45 caliber pistol. I will say in a military context with ball ammo, the 45 probably does have a bigger advantage than it does for civilians, where we can use expanding ammo and there's really not as big of a difference. But with ball ammo, the 45 probably is quite a bit more effective. That being said, I will always love 1911s. I'll probably buy a lot of them in my lifetime because they're extremely nice guns. Probably the sexiest gun ever made. There's some really nice 1911s out there, but obviously you got to pay for them. They're not cheap at all. But the bottom line is, I think if you replaced all those 1911s with Glock 17s or Glock 21s, the outcome of those two world wars would not be any different. And that's why that statement is a myth. All right, number 2. Now, I mentioned this one in one of the anti-gun myths videos. I don't remember which one it was, but I told you guys that we would revisit it in this video because I hear this just as much on the pro-gun side as I do on the anti-gun side. And that is, you don't have to aim a shotgun. All right, so I really elaborated on this one in the last video, but like I said, I probably hear this more from the pro-gun side, like guys at gun shops and even guys behind the counter selling guns, which is kind of scary because this is horrible advice. But you always hear that you don't have to aim a shotgun because it spreads so much that it's just gonna basically take out everything within like a 10-foot radius, which obviously is not true. I've done videos on this on my channel. There's 100 of them on YouTube or more, demonstrating that a shotgun pattern actually stays pretty tight even at longer range. So the equation that I've heard is 1 inch per yard downrange is how much the pattern spreads. So if you're 10 yards away, which is, I would say, the longest hallway you're gonna find in most houses, that's gonna be like a 10-inch spread. So it's not nearly as much as a lot of people think, and you absolutely do have to aim a shotgun or you will miss the target, especially inside of a house. Plus, unless you're using birdshot or something like that, there's just not a ton of pellets in a lot of shotgun shells. Like double-aught buckshot has 9 pellets, so obviously you want to get as many of those on target as you can, and if you're off just a little bit, you will miss the target altogether. Now there's different loads, ones that are designed to spread more and spread less, and obviously you can get a shorter barrel shotgun and it might spread a little bit more, but it's really not a big difference. And inside of a house, you're just not going to be at a far enough distance to get that big of a spread. And once you do get to that far of a distance, it's going to lose a lot of its effectiveness because it's basically too far away at that point. So you also don't want to have it go through the wall into the neighbor's house and, you know, all that stuff, because shotguns are pretty powerful and they will over-penetrate if you don't hit the target. Don't buy into this one. If you hear someone say that, ignore them. It's definitely not true. There's endless videos out there you can watch on YouTube demonstrating how much a shotgun pattern really spreads, and it's not nearly as much as they make it out to be in movies and video games and stuff like that. Plus, I don't think I would want a weapon that spreads that much to take out an entire room. I would like to be able to keep my shot concentrated in a small area, and that's what a shotgun does. All right, number 3, and this is a huge pet peeve of mine. I've seen this in person numerous times, and it's infuriating when you see someone buy into this myth, and that is women with smaller hands need smaller pistols. You have the little pink one down there that you can barely fit 2 fingers on. Yeah, get that for your wife who's 100 pounds and has never shot a gun before. She'll love it. So we've all seen the little pink and baby blue guns that are obviously being marketed towards women who don't have a ton of experience, and usually they're like 380 or 9mm or whatever. But if you've ever picked one up, you know how small and hard to hold on to they are. And what that translates into is way more recoil and less grip to hold on to and control that gun while you're firing it. So I actually have a friend whose dad went out and bought her mom a little pink Ruger. I think it was like a 380, really tiny gun. We took it out and shot it, and obviously you guys know I shoot all the time, and even for me it was uncomfortable to shoot. I just didn't like it. It had tremendous muzzle blast because it was just such a small little 380, and the grip was literally like that big. It was so small you could put it in a side pocket or something, just a tiny little gun, which there are purposes for those guns, but not for people that don't shoot a lot and aren't used to the recoil. But anyway, we went out and shot this gun, and like I said, even me and her dad were not big fans of it, and she obviously wasn't either. So I gave her my Glock 17, which obviously is a full-size 9mm gun with a humongous grip, and she said it felt softer shooting than that tiny little 380 that he got her, and it did. I remember when I shot it thinking how uncomfortable the recoil was because there was nothing to hold on to. So I don't know if it's actually kicking harder than a 9mm does, or if there's just nothing to hold on to, so the felt recoil is a lot more than a bigger gun is. Plus, they're just not the best self-defense tool. With a grip that's, you know, this big, you're not gonna fit too many rounds in the magazine. There are uses for really small pistols, like in the summer when you're not wearing as many layers and stuff like that. Small pistols definitely have a purpose, and I have several of them, but I'm specifically talking about the small little pink ones that are obviously being marketed towards women who are gonna think they're cute or, you know, less scary than a big full-size gun, until they shoot them and they realize that they're much harder to shoot than a gun that's just a little bit bigger. So just my opinion, but I say skip the little pink micro pistols and get your wife or daughter or whoever a bigger gun, at least to start out with, and get her familiar with the recoil. And then if she wants something that small, you know, that's her decision to make. But no, I'm not a big fan, and no matter how small your hands are, you're gonna get a better grip on a gun that has a slightly larger grip and gives you something to hold on to. Just my opinion. All right, number 4. Now this one's gonna get kind of hairy because we're getting into like legal territory, and I'm not gonna rant too long about this. But number 4 is shoot him in the leg. It's not attempted murder. Now, this is not one that I hear so much from gun owners, but more people talking about shootings that happened, or specifically like police shootings. You hear a lot of people say, why can't you just shoot him in the leg or shoot him in the foot and stop him without killing him? And you know, silly stuff like that. So number 1, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an expert in any of this, but I don't think they define that as like a lower level of force just because you shot someone below the waist. I don't think it works that way. I could see a jury being convinced that someone wasn't trying to kill someone if their lawyers are really good and they can say like, see, you shot him in the leg, he wasn't even trying to kill him, he just wanted to stop him, and you know, stuff like that. But under the law, I don't believe it's true that if you shoot someone in the leg, you get like a lesser charge or you weren't trying to do as much damage. Number 1, the femoral artery is in your leg, and you can bleed out in under a minute if you get shot in the femoral artery. So the statement that it's not fatal because it's a leg shot is just false. It's one of the more dangerous spots to get hit is in the femoral artery, and you die super quick. Number 2, and most importantly, if you're ever pulling a gun on someone or using a gun in self-defense, you had better be in fear for your life and needed to shoot that person. We're not just out here shooting people that kind of need to be shot. That better be a life-threatening situation, whether you're a police or a civilian or whatever. I mean, we're seeing, you know, the situations that cops are getting put in right now because everyone has an opinion and they think that they could have done this differently or that differently. When your life is being threatened, it's a completely different ballgame. Also, I think this comes from a lot of people who haven't shot guns a whole lot, because anyone who has would know that to place a round on a moving person on a specific limb, you know, like the leg or the foot, while they're moving or attacking you or doing something, is just not realistic. It's not that easy. Pistol shots are hard enough to make, and especially when your life's being threatened or something really bad is going on, it's really hard to place a shot that accurately. So, plus the 2 main myths that we're addressing with this one are that it's not as fatal, which we know isn't true, and that it's a lesser charge in court, which I don't believe is true. I'm almost positive it's not. So now on the flip side of that, and this one's kind of graphic, so I apologize if there's kids watching or anything, but we have to address this one. This is one that I hear a lot more on the pro gun side. I'm not saying intelligent people talk like this, but I absolutely hear this from people, you know, more often than I would like to, is shoot them in the head so they can't sue or basically talk. So that sounds crazy, and it is, but honestly I understand where they're coming from on that, because unfortunately, there have been people who have used guns in self-defense when they weren't doing anything wrong. Someone else attacked them or broke into their house or their business or whatever, and they used a gun, and they end up getting sued by the family for the death or the injuries that they caused or whatever, when they were not the one in the wrong at all. And they still get sued and lose those cases in court. That stuff does happen. So I understand where people are coming from with this, as screwed up as that sounds to say, but the bottom line is you have to live with that decision. And it goes back to what we were talking about a little bit ago. You basically are supposed to shoot until the threat is stopped, and then that's it. If you continue to shoot after that, that's on you. Some people would probably be okay with that. Others would, you know, probably have nightmares at night and wouldn't deal with it as well. So that's on you. Personally, I would like to take my chances and not ever harm anyone more than they need to be. If someone comes in my house and I shoot and completely miss, if they run away, then we're done. I'm good. I don't need to prove a point or, you know, be overly violent towards someone. Now, if it comes to like a mass shooter or something like that, then you're probably best to just drop them right where they're at and not let them run away and continue, you know, harming anyone else. I'm trying not to be graphic because this is kind of a touchy subject. I don't want this video to get flagged or anything, but yeah, there's obviously really bad situations like mass shootings and stuff like that where you don't want the person to get away at all. But in like a home defense or a self-defense, as long as they stop, you know, doing what they're doing to you or your loved ones, then I would say we're good and I wouldn't follow up on that. But again, I have heard a lot of people say that they would just end that situation right there, and it's usually the tough guy type that, you know, acts like they would do this or that when most of them haven't ever had to use a gun or shot anyone in the first place, so they probably don't know what they would do. But I certainly hear a lot of people say that. Now, whether or not they would actually do it, I don't know. But it's not so much a myth, I guess, as much as it's just like bad information, and I wanted to put it on the list because it's definitely something that I hear, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard the same thing as well. So I think that was technically only 4, but I'm gonna go ahead and make that second part our number 5 because I've been sitting here rambling for quite a while. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. I didn't want to make it too serious, but I wanted to include that last one because that's something that I've just heard for my entire life, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard it as well. So hope that you enjoyed it as much as you did the first part. If you did, please let me know down in the comments, and also give me some more that you would like to hear in part 3, and I look forward to doing more parts of this video. I've got several in my phone, and I would like to just add on to that list and do as many of these as you guys would like to see. So as always, if you liked the video, guys, please hit that like button for me. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.